Couture from the UFC. He was the coach of the Ultimate Fighter 1. And Randy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the Mike Messier show. And what was it like being a coach on the Ultimate Fighter?
It was a great experience for me. The guys were great. I enjoyed working with them. The assistant coaches were fantastic. I learned a lot. And
you don't mind? Please, you can speak right into it.
okay.
And Randy, you've had a pretty great career in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. What are your highlights of your career?
Highlights. I don't know. It's hard to say. I won a few championships. It's hard to pick one over another. I think anytime you're an underdog, like I have been in a few fights, it's always fun to come out on top. Certainly the Vitor Belfort fight, the first time I fought him back in '97, was a big win for me. I think beating Chuck and then Tito, both as 3-1 underdogs, were both big wins for me. But I look forward to the future and getting back in there in February and the third match, the rubber match with Chuck Liddell.
Well, that's going to be great. I didn't even know that the fight had been signed. You, Chuck, and Tito have had kind of a three-way rivalry. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's cool. Is it you and Chuck seem to be pretty friendly on the show? You guys, how do you put that friendship aside when you fight a guy?
It's what we do. I mean, we're fighters. We love to compete. The fact that we get along and have gotten along outside of the ring has no bearing on what we do in the ring. We go in and do what we're trained to do and compete hard and shake hands afterwards.
Right. Is there anybody that you haven't fought that you would like to fight?
I mean, everybody's talked a lot about trying to bridge the gap between the Pride and the UFC, and Vanderlei Silva being the #1 guy and in the weight class for Pride would be a great fight. But there's a lot of guys out there to fight. I don't really care. I'll fight anybody.
Right. And Randy, I want to let you go in just a minute, but how did you get involved in mixed martial arts competition?
I started with Olympic wrestling, most specifically Greco-Roman wrestling, and this just kind of became an extension of that competition. I had my first fight in May of '97, basically on a whim. It was just something I wanted to try, and obviously it's gone way further than I ever expected.
Yeah, you've done amazingly well, and right now you're the coach or the games master, so to speak, on UFC 2, and you're coming up with the games that these guys are fighting in?
Yeah, myself and a few of the producers brainstormed, kind of came up with some challenges that we thought were a little more sport-oriented and a little more combative, and I've been real happy with the way they've come out so far.
I saw the mud wrestling one was pretty funny, where they're trying to push each other out of the pit.
Yeah, a little king of the mat with mud added to give it a little flavor.
Yeah. One thing I got to ask you about is I was dating a girl who asked me about the cauliflower ears that fighters have, and you, of all people, must know that that's excruciating. Is that excruciatingly painful, I would guess?
I've had these for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I got them when I was wrestling in the service, and they're real sore when you first get them, and then after that they're like armor. They're hard as a rock.
Yep.
So God kind of knew what He had in mind for me and gave me some armor plating on the side of my head.
Doesn't affect your hearing, does it? Or?
It's more cosmetic than anything.
Yeah, it's just a battle scar.
Yeah, certain countries you go to the head of the line if you have a set of these.
Yeah. And Randy, it's well known that you're a fighter. You're in your late 30s, early 40s. Is that correct?
42.
42. So, how much longer do you think you can keep going with fights, man?
Well, my body's holding up very well. I'm still able to train and compete at a high level. As long as that happens, I don't see myself doing anything else.
There's a couple of guys like yourself, like Ken Shamrock, who are fighting into this, but it's almost like a pitcher in baseball that hits his stride, like a Randy Johnson or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're seeing it in a lot of professional athletics now. We're just the science of sports. We're getting more and more out of our bodies, and guys are able to compete at a higher and higher level at an older age.
I know that UFC endorses Zions. Is that it? The product?
Zions is a big sponsor of the UFC. They sponsor the Ultimate Fighter, and you can see them at on the canvases of just about every fight now.
Is that something that you take yourself, or?
Actually, they don't sponsor me. I'm sponsored by another company called Physogen.
Okay. Cool. And what's your advice to anybody out there watching? Rhode Island is where the show is broadcast, and it has a lot of guys that are taking mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu or taekwondo. Do you have any suggestions to guys that might want to be involved in this type of fighting?
I would think the best thing to do is to find a good gym, find a place to train that's going to take care of you, where you can get good instruction and work out with a bunch of guys that have your best interest at heart.
Great. All right, Randy, we'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you very much for being on the Mike Messier Show.
You bet. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.